now. Hello everyone, my name is Haley Jenkins. I am an echocardiography major. I'm 22 years old. I have two dogs, Kodak and Nola. Kodak is about 7 months, Nola is about 10 weeks. And yes, a fun fact about me is I can sing, not by choice. It's hereditary. I also used to be a dancer, major at dancing for Landa University in a group called Leputation. Some sports I enjoy: volleyball, basketball. Played tennis at Lander. I played rec volleyball, rec basketball at Lander. My favorite color is pink. What else could I say about myself? As far as my occupation, I work in telemetry on 6 North, cardiovascular ICU at MCG Hospital, that is now Wellstar Health. Sometimes I also float to the Children's Hospital of Georgia, which is one of the biggest children's hospitals in Georgia. I love my job. What about you, Tana?
So I am Tarna Shelley Smith. My married last name does not appear on a lot of things. That takes a while to change. I have 2 children. My oldest is autistic, so I am now a stay-at-home mom, even though we were never home, because he's got a bunch of therapies, and then my youngest child is 17 months old. I also have custody of my sister. She has autism as well. So I stay busy. I do try to pick up part-time work when I can because I used to be a CNA. I've worked in the medical billing and coding field. I've worked in sales. I've worked in a restaurant. There's really not much I haven't done job-wise or that I couldn't do. I just feel like I can always do something I put my mind to. I am in the paralegal program right now. And taking psychology choice. I liked it. Fun.
I wish that we would get to a place where everything was just equal, not, somebody's higher than the other. I don't believe that anybody's better than anybody. It doesn't matter how much money you have. It doesn't matter what your gender is. It doesn't matter your ethnicity. It doesn't matter none of your religion. None of those things matter. I feel like everybody should be considered equal regardless of those things.
Right, I definitely agree. And I have a comment to how you said, Haley is predominantly seen as a cop.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Tarna, I've actually had a sub tell me to sit down when she called my name because she didn't believe my name.
When you say sub, you mean substitute teacher?
Yes.
Okay, so she called your name and you stood up. She told you to sit down and didn't believe that your name was Tarna because people think that Tarna is predominantly black?
I would guess so. But I have never Tarna in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And Tarna actually comes from a movie called Heavy Metal from the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
It is actually a white female, a Caucasian female, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
And it is from a Swedish descent.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know why people assume what they assume. And so I understand where you're from because I just have had people tell me all the time, like, oh, you're Caucasian. I wouldn't assume that. And I feel like maybe my job application has gotten over a few times because of my name and things. So I think we can see each other's point of view on how we deal with that.
I definitely agree. And also, just to tie into our last subject for this discussion, which is the journey of human development. So since we're talking about gender roles, Since we're talking about prejudice, since we're talking about discrimination, I would like to I would tie that into how human development could play a part in discrimination, prejudice, and the violence or disgust thereof that some people have when it comes to people choosing to be a different gender, right? So hypothetically speaking, which is, the hypothetical statement I'm going to give is not true. Okay. Yes, my mother is a African American woman. I did grow up in an African American household, but hypothetically speaking, what if my mother hated white people? And all she talked about was hating white people from the time that I was born up until now. She doesn't like white people. She's racist. And she is rude to white people. She doesn't like to be around white people. She's violent towards white people. Naturally, I would inherit that feeling that my mama has displayed in front of me growing up and also in my adult years, right? And I do believe, again, my mother is not racist, but I do believe that certain things start in the household. I do think that in some cases, prejudice and discrimination does begin in the younger years from parents or in their household growing up. If somebody grew up in a household and they hated black people, there is a 9 out of 10 chance that that person is going to grow up hating black people, or they're going to grow up being prejudiced, they're going to grow up discriminating, and even if it's people hating homosexuals, if that is all the people around them talked about growing up, a result of that could be that they will grow up hating homosexuals, they will grow up being violent towards homosexuals, they will grow up discriminating towards homosexuals.
I do believe that is possible. I definitely believe that the things that happen around us do impact how we see and handle things to a certain extent. Behavior can always be learned and unlearned, in my opinion.
I agree.
I grew up a good bit in downtown Augusta, and when I went to elementary school, I would sometimes be the only white child in the class. Siblings had that happen as well. There's them, and we would be. I would say we were more judged by the teacher than we were the student. And the teachers as well would be predominantly African American. The children were predominantly American. Like, I can recall, especially a certain time, when I was at Head Start, that they were like, I don't know why it offended me so bad looking at it now, but I remember they would be like, that little white girl never sleeps. And I'm like, why do you have to describe me like that?
Right.
Even, like, 3 and 4 years old. Like, I will never forget that. Like, I don't want to say I think about it all the time, but it definitely crosses my mind.
Yes.
Like, why didn't they just say, Charna doesn't sleep very well?
Right.
Because, there's no reason to have a certain attitude or speak a certain way about somebody, but like you were saying, some of those things are learned at home and to translate into like today's society. And then like the N-word was said a lot in the early 2000s when me and my siblings were in school, and we had to have those conversations with our parent about how we can't say that. That's not appropriate for us to say. Even if they call us that, don't respond with it back. Things of that nature, because as kids you don't know what that means, and you don't means and you don't understand why they can say it and you can't. So that's definitely a thing that I believe starts at home as well.
I definitely agree. And conclusively, I would just in my conclusion, I would just like to say that if everybody would treat everybody equal, and if there were more people like you and I, just, hearing you on this discussion and your viewpoints and how you feel, I just feel like if everybody treated everyone equal, and if there were more people like you and I just feel like the world would be a better place.
I definitely agree, and I would like to throw in a little bit that like I said, I was raised by my great grandmother. She was born in 1928. That's during the Depression. That's still during um, some some time when slavery was still happening
Mm-hmm.
in places because of whatever reason.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and even she taught me you don't treat people differently.
Right.
Everybody is everybody. And she did have a African American. I don't want to say maid because she was so much more than a maid. Like she helped raise my my grandmother and a great uncle.
Mm-hmm.
She was part of our family when her son got killed. My family helped pay for the funeral.
Mm-hmm.
Like as like we, it wasn't a race thing, even for someone who was born in 1928. And then my grandmother was born in 1955. And when Tut Middle School, which is a local middle school in Augusta, when it switched over to integration,
Mm-hmm.
it, for her first year of sixth grade to that integrated school. And she had never spoken of races any differently. Like everybody is everybody. So I think it's with the mindset. It's always a home thing.
Right.
But you can change. You can change to go either way.
Everybody is accustomed to change, and I feel like that is a big change that needs to happen, and it starts with you, me.
Exactly.
So that is the end of our discussion today. I hope you enjoyed. Please feel free to leave a comment, a gift, or a short video of your viewpoints on the human development, gender roles, the psychology of prejudice and discrimination. Thank you.
You raves when I was younger. Um, there was a little rave club in downtown Augusta. I the CSA area. Like I've lived in Georgia, South Carolina. Um, and I think that's everything.
Okay. Today our prompt for this particular discussion is exploring the journey of human development, gender roles, and the psychology of prejudice and discrimination. And in this discussion, we'll express our own opinions, our experiences, and we will depend on our classmates for their own opinions and or experiences. Just going into, let's start with gender roles. So just elaborating on a story that I had seen on TikTok pertaining gender roles. There was someone who classified themselves as a transgender, and they were walking in a store, and it was somebody who was biologically and currently still is a male, right? The transgender was a biological male who wanted to transition into being a female. So the transgender basically was trying to speak to the biological man who was trying to speak to the man, and the man took offense to, the transgender finding him attracted so much that he attempted and did successfully, hit him, attempted to fight him, and it was this, big thing on social media. Have you ever, seen a story or seen a video like that? What are your own experiences?
So I personally have not seen a event like that in person. I've not personally seen that video either.
Mm-hmm.
I do know someone who is transgender.
Mm-hmm.
Way before transgender has become a thing.
Mm-hmm.
15 years ago in middle school and high school. And for the most part, people were respectful of their choice. I'm sure they had their battles that I will never understand and don't know.
Right.
I was recently in church. I've been shopping around for churches, and the pastor said something about transgender. Just that really did not sit well with me. And the comment was very judging. It was out of place. It did not fit with the sermon. He was basically saying that, you know, the devil is putting these ideas in these children's heads and in the parents' heads that are letting them mutilate their bodies and things like that. And I just didn't feel like that was in a place in a sermon in a church. We are taught to love everybody, and I will not be going back to that church.
Right.
Some of my experiences with transgender, but also, on gender roles. I really didn't feel like I grew up with any type of gender roles.
Mm-hmm.
My great grandmother raised me. She was born in 1928. She lived till 2015, and my great grandfather died in 1993. I'm sorry, 1999. So she never remarried. Just did everything. She cut the grass, she blowed the stuff off the roof. Like there's nothing that lady couldn't do. And so I just that the that I couldn't do.
Mm-hmm. That was a very like intriguing story. Just going back to what you said about the church situation with the man, I'm sorry, the preacher, saying something about transgenders that was out of place. And the fact that he said it, even though it didn't go with his sermon, means that he went out of his way to say something in regarding to gender roles. And so
Um, I was basically looked at for a management position for a long time because I did not go out hanging out with the other people. I didn't go to the club. Wasn't really a part of that scene. What I wanted to do, and I also felt like it was my race
mm-hmm.
and possibly age because I was 20,
Mm-hmm.
turning 21 at this job. And then right before the team lead left for another job, she made me a manager. And then all of a sudden, I'm getting wrote up like crazy for doing that managers do. Like I got wrote up for sitting down, going over the daily paperwork. I got wrote up for telling a girl that, hey, you need to get off the phone. We can hear everything going on in your home life that you're talking to your girlfriend about.
Mm-hmm.
That's not professional. Let's keep it professional. So I voluntarily left that job with like a 2-day notice because I'm not going to be treated that way.
Right.
For like, there's no reason for it. And they did end up closing 2 of the 3 locations that I was over after I left within about 6 months. And I think that was because they, for one, didn't have qualified people to run it. And for 2, the quality of the sales in those stores dropped drastically.
Mm-hmm. That's crazy. And all you was trying to do was give some friendly advice, you know?
Yeah, I really didn't. I feel like that's what any manager would say, like
Right.
to them, hey, we can hear everything you're talking about.
Right.
Let's not hear about your home. If you need to take a call, take it outside.
Right.
Don't in the middle of the store. Talking about whatever, whoever. It's just not appropriate.
Right. just tying into the topic of discrimination, gender roles, etc., I would like to drop some definitions. Okay.
Okay.
Discrimination is the unjust or prejudged treatment of different categories of people, especially on the grounds of ethnicity, age, or disability. Okay. Now, we were talking about gender roles, people discriminating against people who choose their gender roles. And in this definition, it specifically states ethnicity, age, or sex, or disability. So, judging somebody, being violent towards somebody, withholding something from somebody because of their gender role is discrimination. Can we come to that agreement?
Yes.
The definition of prejudice is a preconceived opinion that is not based on a reason or a actual experience. An example of prejudice is, I hear a lot of people of African descent say, "Oh, that's what white people do." He can't dance, he ain't got no rhythm. That's white people ain't got no rhythm anyway. And I just wish we would get to a place where every single race, every single person is individual, every single person is equal. It doesn't have to be that's a white person thing, that's a black person thing, that's a Mexican person's thing, that's a Chinese person thing. It could just be, we are the people. It doesn't always have to be. And for people who fight for equality, which is myself, I do respect people who fight for equality, because it's hard for people to say they want to be so equal and find so many different ways to
Oh, it got me. I did.
Hold on, I'm about to pause. Notice, okay, so I am a preacher's daughter, right? Which means that I know, a lot about the Bible. And so in the Bible, I do know that it says, you're supposed to love your neighbor. And also, you cannot judge anybody. The only one who does the judgment is God. And so I think a lot of the times people of certain religions, they tend to only use certain parts of the Bible to make whatever they're feeling at that moment make sense, instead of using the Bible in its entirety. Because you can say that, being gay, being a homosexual is a sin, but you cannot prejudge somebody or judge somebody for their sin. You cannot hate somebody for their sin, because the Bible says to love and to not be judgmental. Also tying into, gender roles, people being violent towards people who choose their own gender role, or people discriminating against those people. Discrimination is a big issue in 2025, in the present. Another experience I have with discrimination is my name is Haley, right? And Haley is well known to be a predominantly white name. I don't know a lot of people named Haley with African American descent like myself. I know a few, but I know more Caucasian Haleys than African American Haleys, right? So with that being said, being that my name does appear to be predominantly white, there was a time where I believe I was 16 or 17, and I had just applied for a job, and for some reason, my employers, or whoever those, the people I wanted to be my employers, they was so surprised when I walked through the door. They were so shocked, because my name was Haley, and Haley is predominantly white, but I am of African American descent. Now, during that time, I didn't understand why I didn't receive that position, because all of my every criteria that the job required, I had, and more. So it wasn't until my early 20s I realized I was discriminated upon. I experienced something to where everything that the job required I had, but because of my race, I did not receive that job. And quite frankly, had they have known my race, because believe it or not, you know, when you apply for a job, they always ask your race. In that job, they did not ask my race. The only thing I had to do was submit a resume. And so I submitted my resume with all of my all of my license, all of the education I had, and I'm not sure if I would have even got an interview had they would have known my race. So that is just a great example of discrimination. Do you have any examples, or have you ever been discriminated against?
I do. I worked for a pretty big phone company. They had stores in the area. I was the only white female within those stores. There eventually was a white male. And I also had a mixed team lead. She was like the team lead. But you would not know that she was mixed. Like, her mom was white and her dad was black. You wouldn't know that from the way that she presented herself. And she was a little bit darker of a skin tone than most people would assume someone mixed is. Because I didn't know until she told me. She was like, yeah, my mom's white. And I was like, what? So I was over 3 different stores, Grovetown, Thompson, and